In this video, I'm going to show you the timeline that you are currently on, and I'm going to show you how to activate your highest timeline, and by the end of it, you will know not just these intellectual theories, you will know step by step exactly what to do in order to activate what is called your highest timeline. So in a way, you could say that by the end of this video, you will be on your highest timeline if you simply make the choice to be it and do what I share with you in this video. Now, the first thing to understand about timelines is that you are on one right now. The way you are thinking, the way you are feeling, the way you are acting, that is setting a certain trajectory for your life, and you will find yourself meeting people that are in equal resonance with that timeline. So you will find and meet people that are reflecting back to you how you think, feel, and act. Now, when it comes to timeline, what makes this different than just vibration is it's understanding the trajectory of your life and where it is heading. And until you become aware of how you're thinking, feeling, and acting in the present moment right now, then what happens is as you make those changes of who you are being, you literally shift yourself to another timeline. Now, this is what quantum physics is showing. This is what, when we learn about parallel realities, what we learn is everything exists here and now, because this moment is the only thing that exists here and now. Even think about it. When it was the past, you think about it using your memory, but the past exists right now. It's just you're using your memory to connect to it. Same with the future. You can have anxious thoughts about the future, but the future never actually comes, because by the time it's the future, it's this moment right now. Everything exists here and now. And when we talk about that of timeline activation, it comes with this notion of understanding that the version of you that you prefer to be already exists. You do not have to create it from scratch. It's about activating it. It's about activating it. Now let's look at this handy dandy chart right here. And I want to show you a couple differences between these different energies. And I'm going to use myself as an example in case you haven't heard my story before about how I used to work a 9-to-5 job selling women shoes. You probably have heard of it if you've been watching my channel. If you're new, then you're like, what are you talking about, Aaron? Why are you being so weird? So basically, timeline activation. Look at these stick figure of you and then these different parallel reality versions of you. Now I want you to notice there's 3 different stick figures. There's actually an infinite number versions of you within what is called the alternative space, which is like all the different variations of reality. However, we're using 3 to focus on. Now these different timelines contain different ways of thinking, feeling, and acting. Now I'm going to show you what switches the timelines here in a second, which will completely shift the way you go about your life if you apply this, the way that it's changed my life and thousands of others that have been through my 21-day challenges and other things. Now, first off, the version of me that had a 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes, I was thinking, feeling, and acting equal to that 9-to-5 job. And there were certain values and habits that version of me had. Now, at the same time that I was in that reality, which of course is this moment right now, which there's a version of me that is in a different timeline that is still working that 9-to-5 job, kind of trippy. However, there's a version of me that became a YouTuber. And back in 2017, which all time exists here and now anyways, but back in 2017, when I became a YouTuber, I literally activated that timeline. I activated that version of me. And there were certain energetic things I did that completely shifted everything. Now, that version of me values different things than the version of me that worked the 9-to-5 job. Now think about it. These are different realities. And I want to really show that because once you see the different realities, you can see the different trajectories of that version of you. Or using myself as an example. Now, for example, that 9-to-5 job. What would be the future of that version of me that worked that 9-to-5 job? Well, I remember being there in that 9-to-5 job and looking around and noticing that I was the youngest person there. There were even people with degrees that were still selling women's shoes. Now, nothing wrong with selling women's shoes. However, I knew it wasn't what I was passionate about. And when I looked around, They say it was like a trap working in retail, because what happens is you make like $60,000 a year, and then you get out of college. Some people go to college while they're going there, and they get out of college and they realize that their college job would pay less than they were used to making, so like they would feel trapped. So here I am working at Barney's New York and Women's Shoes, and there are people that are 50, 60 years old that are much older than me, and I'm looking at them like, that is my future. Like, they also, by the way, only one person liked selling women's shoes in the department, and that person was the best shoe salesperson, ironically enough. She was very passionate about it. However, I could see the version of me in the future if I kept being who I was. Now let me ask you a question on your current timeline right now. If you stay thinking, feeling, and acting equal to whatever you've been embodying, whatever fear that you've had that's been keeping you in your comfort zone, we'll talk about that in a minute too, what will your reality be in 20 years from now? What will your reality be in 10 years from now? It'll probably be somewhat similar. You'll probably meet partners or love interests that are equal to that part of you that doesn't like that 9-to-5 job. If you don't like your 9-to-5 job, of course. You might love what you do, and that's totally cool. However, you experience a reflection of how you think, feel, and act. When I worked a 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes, I only attracted women that worked 9-to-5 job that also sold women's shoes. No, I'm just kidding. They also did jobs they didn't like, though, because it was an equal resonance with me. Now, what were the values of the version of me? Values are kind of like beliefs, and the things that you value make up your identity. Working a 9-to-5 job, I valued the security of someone else giving me a paycheck every week. Another company giving me a paycheck. I valued the security of that. I also had these beliefs. Think about what I would believe to be true. I believed that working a 9-to-5 job was what I was worthy of. I believed that if I were to be this YouTuber version of myself, that would be scary. What would people think of me? I would be judged. I had a certain thought process. I didn't want to shine and have the spotlight on me. I was afraid of what would happen if that happened. So what I believed about myself was different than the YouTuber version of me. I was also in my comfort zone was working that 9-to-5 job. I didn't like the 9-to-5 job, but I almost was comfortable not liking the 9-to-5 job. Just like in childhood, it was comfortable to have this belief that life's not fair, and there's this, schedule that I have to like suck up to a manager to get the schedule that I want, so I get the weeks off a year for my vacation that I want, that correlate with everyone else that I work with, so we don't overlap our vacations. It was like this whole thing in corporate politics, managers talking down to the employees. That just, my value was like, that was normal. I didn't think that was that weird. You want to know something that's funny? When I was working that 9-to-5 job, there was a person that I remember worked there. This is at Nordstrom's actually. And there was a manager there that was very similar to my ex-stepmom, where she would talk down to, she was like in my life kind of reflecting back that stepmom energy back in the day. And she would talk down to people and almost like make people cry and things like that. She was pretty mean. And this one guy, what was his name? Ronaldo? No, I forget. She talks down to this one guy that was new, and he looked at her and he said, "What the hell? You don't talk to me like that. F you." And he walked out. He just quit because he wasn't gonna have a job with someone talking to him like that just for the job. She'd get away with it because people wanted the job. It wasn't within his scope, so he valued something differently, which I find interesting. We get in life what we tolerate. Now, let's go back to this though. There was a part of me that somehow liked having that 9-to-5 job. Even if I didn't like it, there was a part of me that did like it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there. Now, here's another thing. When I went full-time on YouTube, one shift I had to make is I started to value authenticity, following my passion instead of doing things just for money. But also, I had to become my own boss. See, I had a boss telling me what to do at this level, but at this level, the version of me as a YouTuber, I realized I had to be self-motivated. I had to motivate myself. I had to take initiative. And I had to be very honest with myself and realize no one's gonna be in my corner just telling me, "Aaron, go for it, go for it." I had to be that for myself. And you'll find that as you shift identities, as you shift into a new version of yourself, sometimes friends and family don't want you to do that. They are familiar and comfortable with the other version of you. where you act in accordance to how they expect you to act, and you're just much easier to deal with. You're not challenging their perception of you. But it takes, like here, this version of me would hang out with friends. If they were like, let's hang out, I'd be like, yes. And it would be like, we would drink, we would smoke or whatever. Actually, at the time, I didn't even do that, but like I would go there and I'd be around it. And then I remember as I shifted into this YouTuber version of me, I had more boundaries. I was like, I don't have time to hang out like that. I had a 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes. I was making videos on YouTube every single day on YouTube because in 2017, I decided to be a YouTuber. I made the choice to be it. We'll talk about that in a minute. However, then all of a sudden I had more boundaries. I realized I choose going after my passion and making videos over that of, over just hanging out and kind of like staying the same of where I am. The people around you will shift as you shift. So this version of me that's working, that's a YouTuber, that version of me I realized made a video every single day when I connected to it with my imagination. Another very important thing, if you study Neville Goddard, for example, or a lot of different teachers, imagination, Albert Einstein talked about this, imagination is your connection to the divine. If you can imagine it, it is a reality that exists, and you can use your imagination to become that version of yourself, either through meditation and in feeling it as if it already exists now, or using your imagination to get messages from that version of you. When I was over here in my 9-to-5 job, I literally had a download from my higher self that said, if you make a video a day on YouTube, your life will shift. Basically, if you activate this timeline, your life will shift. And it did. And I started valuing authenticity, because self-discipline. As I started taking action, making videos, I started to see myself differently. I started to see myself as a hard worker. I started to see myself as someone that could have my vision and a vision on something and commit to it. So, then here's another level. This is a more current version of me. And every level also kind of has its limitations. Now I'm at a place to where I'm more so stepping into live speaking. I've been running live events, live virtual events and live in-person events, where there's hundreds of people there and we're meditating and there's like a stage and I'm teaching ideas and things like that. That version of me thinks, feels, and acts differently than just the YouTuber version of me. Like right now I'm kind of in the middle of like embodying these two timelines, these two energies. However, this version of me has had to lean more into fear. Of course, there's fear at every level. There was fear of letting go of the 9-to-5 job and of making videos because what will people think of me? Then from this level to this level, there's fear that like now I'm in front of a stage. Like sometimes I'll be on stage for literally 8 or 9 hours a day for like 3 or 4 days straight. No script or anything, just speaking, teaching, coaching, running live meditations. It's a lot of energy, but I love it. And there's always fear right before I get on stage, and then once I'm on stage, there's no fear. Just like in high school, I used to do forensics debate. I'd always be a whole bunch of anxiety before you get into the debate. But once you're in the debate, once you're in the classroom, I was in a classroom, and then you would teach, and there'd be judges, and you would debate someone. It was like once you get in there, it goes away. Kind of the same thing. This version of me has even more boundaries. This live speaker version of me has even more boundaries around my energy because especially when I'm at a live event, I only have energy to really interact with the crowd. And sometimes even in between the live event with hundreds of people there's people that like want my attention. There's people that want to say hi, they want a selfie or a photo. And it's like I have to have boundaries there so that I can do what I'm doing as a live speaker. But my boundaries have increased. Now here's one thing I will say. The more I've moved and shifted into these different values, these different identities, the higher levels for me have included that of adding value. The more I add value, the more I intend to help other people, the more the divine kind of flows back to me. It's almost like the more I'm into the selfless energy as well. Now, I want to show you something very interesting about timelines, and then we'll talk about exactly what to do. The fear. Fear is a belief, and fear is a feeling of what the ego deems as safe. So the fear is the edge to where when you lean into the fear, you begin to expand your comfort zone. In my 9-to-5 job, I was afraid of what other people would think of me. I was afraid of the uncertainty with being a YouTuber, whereas I had a set paycheck with my 9-to-5 job. But that fear, leaning into that, expanded my sense of identity. And then now, like and now the fear with live speaking and being in front of people, it's a different fear, but each fear is different, and it's almost like a greater degree of expansion of that fear. The fear never goes away. The answer is to lean into the fear. The fear is what's keeping you locked in your old timeline. So timeline activation, how do we do it? Basically what you do is there's 3 different steps to this, and both have a C component to it. Why a C component? I don't know. It's just memorable. But also, here we go, first one. Be it. You must first choose to be this new version of you. And no one's going to put you on and force you to do it. You have to be the one to choose it. You ever notice people are like, like if you have someone in your friend group that maybe can lose some weight. I remember, sometimes in a friend group you'll have someone that's like, you encourage them to lose weight or something like that. I had a friend growing up who was and is overweight, and we were always like, hey, lose some weight. Come, not like that. We'd say, hey, want to come to the gym with us? Want to come for New Year's Eve or New Year's Day and like come to the gym and New Year's resolution? And you never want to do it. Why? Because it wasn't coming from inside of himself. We were trying to force him to do it. It has to come from within. It has to be a choice you make. So you be it. You make a choice. An end of itself. You're being it because it's who you choose to be. And I chose in 2017 to be a YouTuber, knowing no one else is going to give me permission. I had to give myself permission. And as I was being it, there was a choice I had to make. But the choice isn't enough, because what will happen is you'll make the choice and then the old patterns will come up, or someone else will tell you, what are you doing? They'll look at you funny and you'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, let me be the old way that I was. That's why the second step is you must make the choice, but then also take action. Take action. I was making a video on YouTube. Action is the language of our reality. It's the language of physical reality. And as you take action, what happens? You then commit to the process. You commit to the timeline. You commit. Your identity is what you commit to. I always say that at live events. Your identity is what you commit to. If you're committed right now to a YouTuber or whatever that is for you, for me, I committed to it and I immediately gave myself permission to be it. And I was thinking, feeling, and acting equal to that version of me. And I was trusting that process. I was committed to it. I was holding myself accountable for it. I would tell my friends and my family what I was doing. And even though some people didn't, it was like some people would make fun of it. Some people would be like, why? Like, you have 12 subscribers. What are you doing? For months, I was working at it, and then it started to grow, and then people could see it. But I had to believe in myself first. So the first, activating a timeline. Make the choice to be it, commit to it. Your identity is what you commit to. I had to sometimes edit videos. My 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes, I'd work till 11 or 12 at night, edit videos, go home, record, or I would go home at the end of the day at 11 or 12 in the morning at my dad's house, make a video in my sister's room, which he didn't like. My sister was like, when she was at her mom's house or whatever, I'd go in and do that. My dad didn't like that for some reason. And then what I would do is I'd make that video, I would edit the video, schedule the video to go the next day, make the thumbnail, go to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning, then wake up the next day and do that. And so it wasn't like that every night, but like that's what I took because I was committed. And then that reality began to crystallize. It became my dominant reality. You want this to become your dominant timeline, which means you have to start putting the energy into it. And then the third step is consistency. Through the power of meditation especially. It's like meditation doesn't make a big difference unless you consistently do it. You must commit to a consistent practice. And meditation is like an inner way of shifting your vibration, of shifting your energy that allows you to actually shift that so that you can energetically resonate with it. Now, if I were to summarize also, you could combine this with Neville Goddard, who talks a lot about how the reality already exists. And what you do is you think about it. These different timelines, you must feel it and feel the gratitude. Gratitude says this reality is already here now. If you feel the gratitude for something before it exists, you are activating that timeline. It's good to think about it in timelines. You might say, Aaron, timeline's very similar to vibration. Yes, but also it helps you understand that these are separate trajectories based on the choices you are making about who you are and being it, being aware of your old self and being aware of who you prefer to be. That changes absolutely everything. Now, One thing you can do as well, if you really want to shift this energy in a very powerful way, is we are going to be doing a Activate Your Highest Timeline challenge in January of 2024. So it's coming up soon. It's going to be a 21-day process of activating your highest timeline. I'm going to be teaching some things I've never really taught before. Parallel reality shifting, decreased level of importance, understanding some concepts I shared in some videos, but we're really going to be going deep in a 21-day challenge to activate our highest timeline together and to connect to the power of group energy. If you want to join that, you can join that right now by clicking the link in the description box below. And also, if you want a meditation that will help you to raise your frequency, raise your vibration, it's one of my most popular meditations I've ever made, over 2 million views. Read the comments to see what's possible and commit to it for 21 days. Watch how much your life changes and check it out right here.